Keanu Reeves walked into a car dealership one bright morning, his appearance far from the way most people would expect an owner to look. He wasn't dressed in a suit, nor was he wearing flashy accessories or an air of confidence that suggested he was someone important. Instead, he wore a faded navy button-down shirt, old jeans, and a cap pulled low over his head. He blended in perfectly with the other customers, unnoticed and unremarkable. If you saw him, you would probably think he was just another regular guy browsing through used cars. But that's when he heard something that made him stop in his tracks. From behind him, a soft, almost broken voice whispered, "This was our son's car. He died saving a child." The words carried an unmistakable weight, like a secret too heavy to hold any longer. The woman speaking sounded as though she had been holding back tears for far too long, and the pain in her voice was clear. Keanu felt something stir inside him. That was when the manager, Victor Stone, who was standing nearby, offered the elderly couple $2,000 for the car, and it was then that Keanu knew he couldn't stay silent. Everything was about to change. The morning sunlight poured through the windows of the dealership, casting a warm, golden glow over the shiny, polished cars in the showroom. The showroom itself gleamed, giving the impression of a perfect, well-oiled machine. Inside, the salespeople were going about their usual routines. They straightened their ties, flashed smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes, and glanced at their watches every few seconds. It was the same every day, a game of selling and negotiating, always looking for ways to squeeze a little extra profit. Nothing seemed out of place, and that was exactly what bothered Keanu. The sound of the door chime barely registered as the man in the faded button-down shirt stepped inside. The moment he entered, he went unnoticed. He didn't stand out. He didn't walk with confidence, nor did he look like someone important. To most of the salespeople, he was just another shopper, probably someone who wasn't serious about buying. Their whispers followed him as he walked through the showroom. "Just another window shopper," one of the salespeople muttered. "He's probably just looking for financing and will waste our Charlie," the other remarked with a smug look on his face. Keanu didn't react to the whispers, nor did he let them bother him. He just kept walking, his eyes scanning the showroom, not focused on the cars but on the people around him. He noticed how the customers looked uneasy, how the young couple appeared uncomfortable as they glanced down at their contract, and how the manager seemed too busy to care about their concerns. He had come here for a reason, to find out if the rumors he had heard were true. Something didn't feel right. There was a disconnect between the polished exterior of the dealership and the way the customers were treated inside. The numbers on the spreadsheets looked good, but Keanu had learned to trust people, not numbers. The truth wasn't in the numbers, it was in the way people were treated. Keanu had built this dealership from the ground up with a friend, hoping to create a place where honesty and trust were just as important as the cars they sold. But over Charlie, the business had changed. Success had come, but so had something else. Distance, dishonesty, and a loss of the values they had originally cared about. He had started hearing troubling stories, elderly customers being taken advantage of, trade-ins being undervalued, and financing being twisted to benefit the dealership rather than the customers. Keanu couldn't ignore it any longer, and so he had come in not as a famous actor or the owner, but as a regular person. Someone who would blend in and hopefully find out what was really going on behind the scenes. As Keanu walked deeper into the showroom, he was approached by one of the salespeople. The man didn't look enthusiastic, more like he was checking off a task on his to-do list. "You looking for something special?" the salesman asked. Keanu smiled politely and replied, "Just browsing. Something simple, used, and reliable." The salesman took one look at Keanu's clothes, gave him a once-over, and then nodded toward the back lot. "We've got some older models back there. I'll send someone to show you if they have Charlie," he said, and with that he walked away, leaving Keanu standing there. Keanu didn't need a grand welcome, and he wasn't looking to buy a car. He was here for something much bigger. His eyes drifted back to the showroom. Everything was pristine, everything was carefully curated to look perfect, but Keanu could feel something beneath the surface wasn't right. And that's when he heard it. The voice. It was soft, almost like a whisper, but it carried a weight of sadness that echoed in the showroom. "Please, is there anything else you can do?" It was the woman's voice again, full of desperation, as though she was on the verge of giving up. Keanu turned his head toward the trade-in desk, where the couple was standing. They were both elderly, their shoulders slumped with age and exhaustion. The man was tall, but his back was slightly hunched. His silver hair was combed neatly, and his face was set with determination, though his hand shook slightly as he held it out to Victor Stone, the manager. The woman beside him was smaller, frail, and looked like she had been crying. She was clutching her purse tightly against her chest, her eyes rimmed red from holding back tears. In front of them stood Victor Stone, acting as though the couple's sadness was just an inconvenience, another hurdle in his job to get them to sign on the dotted line. "I'm sorry," Victor said, his voice smooth but cold, like he had said these words 1,000 Charlies before. "We've already offered more than the book value for the car. $2,000 is generous." The old man's voice, though calm, trembled as he replied, "But it's more than just a car. It belonged to our son. We've kept it in perfect condition." Victor sighed loudly, almost as if he was tired of hearing the same story. "I understand you're attached to it, but emotions don't affect the market," he said dismissively. "I'm offering you a fair deal, probably more than fair considering the mileage." Keanu stood quietly watching the scene unfold. He didn't move or speak, but his gaze never left the elderly couple. The woman spoke again, her voice trembling with emotion. "Our son was a firefighter. He died last year saving a little girl from a burning apartment. This car was his. He drove it every day to work. We kept it in perfect condition, but now, with the repairs and the hospital bills, we can't afford to keep it anymore." Her voice broke slightly, but Victor didn't show any empathy. "Well, I'm sorry for your loss," Victor said, already reaching for the paperwork. "But like I said, the offer stands. If you want to sign, we can finish this today. Otherwise, you can leave." The words stung. It wasn't just about the money. The couple wasn't being offered a fair price for the car. Their grief and their memories were being treated like nothing more than an inconvenience to Victor's business. The couple's loss wasn't just something they had to deal with, it was being erased in a transaction. Keanu's jaw tightened as he stepped closer. He wasn't going to let this go. He approached the counter and pretended to examine a nearby car, keeping his voice casual. "Excuse me," he said gently, "I couldn't help overhearing. What car are we talking about?" Victor glanced over at him, annoyed, and tried to brush him off. "Sir, this is a private matter," he said coldly. But Keanu ignored him and turned toward the couple, his voice soft and kind. "May I ask what kind of car your son drove?" The elderly man hesitated for a moment, then replied, "A 2008 Silver Civic. He kept it spotless inside and out." Keanu nodded thoughtfully, his eyes still fixed on the couple. "That's a good car, especially when it's been taken care of," he said. Then he turned to Victor. "You said it's worth $2,000? Victor raised an eyebrow. "Yes, and that's more than generous." Keanu paused for a moment, his gaze steady. "I'll offer $5,000. The words hung in the air. It was an offer that was much more than fair. It was a chance to make things right. Keanu wasn't just trying to buy a car. He was trying to remind people what really mattered: honesty, kindness, and the respect that everyone deserved. The manager didn't say anything for a moment, but it was clear that the situation had shifted. For the first Charlie, things didn't feel so much like a business transaction. They felt like what they were: the real story of a family, their memories, and the truth that Keanu had come to find. The room went quiet. Victor scoffed and said, "It's not for sale. It's being traded in." Keanu replied, his voice calm, "I'm not trading it. I'm offering to buy it." The woman blinked, looking confused. "You do that for his car?" she asked softly. Keanu met her gaze. "Yes," he said gently, "but only if you're okay with it. I don't want it ending up on a resale lot. I'd like to restore it, keep it in his memory." The woman's lower lip quivered and she wiped at her eyes. Her husband, standing next to her, squeezed her hand. He fought not to let his emotions show. It was clear that this car, a small, simple thing, was more than just a car. It was a part of their son, a part of their memories. For a moment, they stood there, staring at Keanu, like he was someone they hadn't seen in a long Charlie. Someone who had offered them kindness. Victor stepped forward now, irritation in his voice. "You can't just." Keanu turned to him, his tone calm but firm. "We'll talk later." Victor froze, surprised by the quiet strength in Keanu's voice. It was a tone he wasn't used to hearing. He didn't recognize it yet, but something in Keanu's calmness made him uneasy. Keanu turned back to the couple and said softly, "Let's step outside for a moment." They nodded slowly, still trying to process what was happening. They followed him outside into the cool morning air. The car sat quietly in the corner of the lot. The sunlight was dancing on its surface. It wasn't flashy or new, but it was clear that it had been loved. The old man spoke again, his voice steadier this Charlie. "Our son's name was Nathan. Nathan Pierce. He was 29. That car was everything to him." Keanu listened carefully, not just with his ears but with his full attention. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just stood there, listening with an openness that made it clear he understood the weight of their words. After a pause, Keanu spoke again. I'd like to buy the car. But not as a trade-in. Not as a bargain. I want it because it mattered to someone who gave everything and it still matters to you. The woman's eyes filled with tears. You'd really do that? She whispered. Her voice was filled with disbelief and gratitude. Keanu pulled out a checkbook from his jacket pocket. He didn't hesitate. Some things, he said quietly, are worth more than money. Just then the glass doors of the dealership flew open and Victor Stone stormed out. His jaw was clenched, and his expensive shoes clicked furiously against the floor as he marched toward the front lot. Behind him, a few salespeople peeked out from the windows, their eyes full of nervous curiosity. Keanu stood beside the car, still holding the check. Gregory and Margaret Pierce stood close by, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The stranger who wasn't really a stranger, offering more than just money. Victor's voice cut through the air, sharp and angry. You can't just waltz in here and mess up my deal. Keanu didn't flinch. His tone remained calm and collected. I wasn't messing up anything. I was helping a customer. Victor's face twisted into a snarl. That's not how this works. You just cost this dealership thousands of dollars, and you completely ruined my authority. Keanu slowly turned to face Victor, his posture shifting. It wasn't the casual, easygoing customer anymore. Keanu was standing tall, with an air of strength and control. Authority, Keanu said, his voice quiet but powerful. Victor stopped. He took a small step back, unsure. He didn't know what to make of the shift in Keanu's demeanor. Keanu's voice became colder. I didn't realize your job was to take advantage of grieving parents. Victor opened his mouth, trying to respond, but no words came out. His face drained of color. Keanu stepped forward, pulled something from his back pocket and held it between two fingers. It was a simple business card. Clean, white, and professional. It read, Keanu Reeves, co-owner, Reeve Automotive. Keanu extended it toward Victor. I'm the man who built this company. The room seemed to freeze. Behind the glass showroom, the salespeople stopped moving. The phone stopped ringing. Every single head in the room turned. A hush fell over the space. Someone whispered, Is that really? It's him, another person said. That's Keanu Reeves. The realization hit like a wave. The color drained from Victor's face and his jaw dropped. Keanu took another step closer to him. His voice was low, but it carried with the weight of 1,000 words. I just watched you dismiss these people. I heard you lie about their car's value. I saw you act like this place is nothing more than a profit machine. Victor tried to speak, but his words came out in a rush. Mr. Reeves, I didn't know. I was just doing my job. Keanu cut him off. His tone sharpened. If I were anyone else, you wouldn't have cared. You'd have taken their car, crushed their story, and called it a win. Keanu turned and looked toward the glass showroom. His voice, though not raised, carried to every corner of the dealership. How many of you were trained to do the same thing? A ripple moved through the staff inside. Some of them avoided his gaze. A few looked ashamed. But Evan, the young salesman who had spoken up earlier, stepped forward. It happens all the Charlie, Evan said. His voice was steady, even if a little unsure. Victor pushes us to lowball customers, especially if they seem vulnerable. He says emotions don't pay commission. Victor spun around, his face red with anger. That's a lie, is it? Keanu's gaze was enough to silence him. Victor didn't say anything further. The room grew heavy with the weight of Keanu's words. The salespeople shifted uncomfortably, some avoiding eye contact, others looking down. Evan stood at the back, unsure whether to feel proud or worried. Keanu's voice rang out, calm but firm. I just saw something I shouldn't have. This isn't just about one bad employee. This is about a culture, a way of doing things that is broken. Victor's shoulders dropped. The fight had drained from him. He was no longer in control. He muttered under his breath, curses escaping from his mouth. Look, Victor said, his voice quieter now, I was just trying to make good numbers. That's business. Keanu's eyes narrowed. No, he said, his voice cold and final. That's greed. He stood tall and, with a simple sentence, shattered Victor's authority. You're fired. Victor blinked, stunned. What? Effective immediately, Keanu said. Turn in your badge and leave. Victor looked around as if expecting someone to come to his defense. But no one moved. No one said a word. Victor cursed under his breath, grabbed his jacket, and stormed back through the glass doors. As they shut behind him, it wasn't just the door that closed. It was a chapter. A culture. A way of doing things that had been wrong. For a moment there was silence. But then, slowly, a quiet ripple of applause began. One of the older employees started clapping, then another, and then Evan. Soon the whole showroom was clapping. It wasn't forced. It wasn't for show. It was a cheer of relief, the kind that comes when something wrong is finally made right. Keanu turned back to Gregory and Margaret. He held the check out to them once again. "Take it," he said softly. "Drive your son's car home with pride." Gregory reached out, his eyes filled with tears. "We don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Keanu replied. "Your son was a hero. This is the least we can do." The glass doors closed behind Victor Stone, but the impact of his presence lingered. It was like smoke in the air. It wasn't just about one man, one bad decision. It was about something deeper. Something that had been fixed. Inside the dealership, everyone stood still. They weren't sure what to do next, whether to clap, hide, or start packing up. But Keanu wasn't finished yet. He turned slowly to face the room. No longer the stranger in faded jeans, no longer invisible, Keanu was exactly who he had always been. But now everyone saw him clearly. He took a deep breath and spoke. His voice was calm but commanding. "Let me be clear," Keanu said, his words reaching every corner of the room. "This isn't just about firing one man. This is about fixing what's broken." No one dared look away. Keanu continued, his voice steady and strong. "Somewhere along the way we lost sight of what we're supposed to be. Reeve Automotive was built on trust, on transparency, on doing right by people. But today I saw the truth. We've let the wrong kind of culture take root." There was a flicker of discomfort in the room. A few salespeople shifted uncomfortably. Evan, standing near the back, locked eyes with Keanu, unsure of whether to feel proud or worried. Keanu looked directly at the man standing in front of him. He then turned to the others in the room, the ones who had the courage to speak up. "Thank you," Keanu said. "You represent what this place can be." Evan, one of the workers, blinked. He was surprised. Someone next to him patted him on the shoulder, and another worker, someone older and with more experience, raised his hand as if asking for permission to speak. Keanu nodded, giving him permission. The older man said, "Victor, our old boss, trained us to work this way. We didn't always agree, but if we didn't follow the rules, we lost chances to make money. Some of us have families. We did what we were told because we thought it was the only way to succeed." Keanu listened and let the words hang in the air. The man wasn't making excuses. He was confessing the truth. "I understand," Keanu said. "But from today we are changing the rules." By noon, every worker had been called into the staff lounge. The room was full of nervous energy. People sipped their coffee, but no one was really drinking it. Phones sat on the tables, silent. Keanu stood in front of everyone. He wasn't standing like a big boss or a CEO, speaking down to people from a high place. He stood with them as if they were all the same. "You're probably wondering if this is just another speech," he said. "Another round of 'we're making changes,' but nothing really happens." A few people nervously laughed. He smiled a little. "He's not wrong," Keanu said. "This Charlie, it's real. We're not just changing numbers. We're changing the way we treat people, starting right now." A worker in the back mumbled, "Until corporate steps in." Keanu smiled faintly and said, "I am corporate." The workers laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was real. People felt a little less nervous. Evan raised his hand. "So what does that mean for us?" "It means we stop taking advantage of people who don't know better," Keanu replied. "No more hidden fees. No more forcing people into buying things they don't need. No more confusing customers to get them to pay more." He let those words sink in, then added, "And from now on, your bonuses won't be based on how much money you make from customers. They'll be based on how well you treat them." The room was full of murmurs. People were shocked, confused, and curious. The older man from earlier asked, "You mean we'll make more money by being honest?" Keanu nodded. "You'll earn trust. And trust brings people back. Not just for one car, but for a life, Charlie." Later that day, Keanu sat in the back office with a big folder full of customer complaints, refunds that had been denied, and stories that had been hidden away. Keanu started calling people one by one. "Hi, this is Keanu Reeves from Reeve Automotive." "Yes, that Keanu. I just wanted to personally apologize for what happened last Charlie you visited. We looked over your contract and I believe you were overcharged. We want to make it right." Some people laughed, some cried, and some didn't believe it was real until they got the check. But word spread quickly. By the end of the day, the phones at Reeve Automotive were ringing non-stop. A woman came in just to shake Keanu's hand and say, "Thank you for remembering what business should be." Meanwhile, Gregory and Margaret Pierce, a couple whose son's car had been fixed by Reeve Automotive, drove home. Their son's car, a Civic, was fixed not just in the body but in dignity. They didn't look back because something had changed. Not just in the dealership but in the hearts of everyone inside it. The very next morning the phones were ringing again. "Is it true?" people asked. "Did you really refund people? My uncle said you called him last night." The phones didn't stop. People came in with old contracts in their hands hoping for answers. Some were angry, others were hopeful. Across town, Travis Hawk, the owner of Jake Motors, saw what was happening. He had built his business by being sneaky. He used T-Victor ads, confusing prices, and pushed customers into deals they didn't understand. For years, his mean tactics had worked, but now they were in trouble. Keanu's honesty was making Jake look bad. By noon, Jake called Keanu. "I see what you're doing," he growled. "I'm fixing what you broke." Keanu replied, "You don't have to worry about us. We're doing what's right." Jake's voice got louder. "You're making the rest of us look bad. You're giving refunds to too many people. You're breaking the system." Keanu answered, "I'd rather break the system than let it keep hurting people." Jake hung up the phone, but it didn't stop Keanu. That afternoon, Keanu launched a new campaign. "Bring your old deals," he said. "We'll break them down line by line. No T-Victors, no pressure. Just the truth." In less than 72 hours, many customers came back, some even from Jake Motors, to ask for help fixing their bad deals. Keanu and his team worked hard, reviewing every contract, making refunds, and offering apologies. The word spread quickly on social media. People shared stories of how Keanu had called them personally to apologize. "Keanu Reeves called my grandmother to say sorry. They refunded my dad after 2 years. Who does that?" someone posted. One brave former worker from Jake Motors came to Reeve Automotive with a flash drive full of hidden fees and fake signatures. Keanu knew what he had to do. He organized a press conference and cameras flashed as reporters gathered. "This isn't about revenge," Keanu said. "This is about responsibility, and we're not done making it right." Just as Keanu finished speaking, a man stepped out from the crowd. "I worked at Jake Motors," the man said, holding the documents. "Everything Keanu said is true. I have the proof." He handed the files to a reporter and the cameras followed. The truth came out and Jake lied and collapsed in front of everyone. Keanu took a deep breath. Evan smiled and said, "We just turned the tide, didn't we?" Keanu smiled faintly. "No, they did." Outside, people were already walking into Reeve Automotive, many with contracts in their hands, others just with questions and hope. The battle wasn't over, but Keanu knew they had done something important. The truth had been heard loud and clear. In the next 48 hours, Jake Motors was in big trouble. The news picked up the story, and an investigation came out showing everything Jake had been doing wrong. Customers called Jake dealership, demanding refunds and threatening to sue. One person even filed a big lawsuit. By the end of the week, Jake's social media accounts were locked, and his car dealerships were empty. His lawyers were busy trying to fix the mess. Meanwhile, Reeve Automotive was buzzing. People were lining up outside before the doors even opened. One woman walked in and said, "I heard what you did for that firefighter's parents. I thought maybe someone would listen to my story too." Keanu didn't just listen. He acted. He read every story, approved every correction, and signed every apology letter. This wasn't just a marketing stunt anymore. It was a movement. Inside the dealership, everything had changed. The workers weren't afraid to speak up anymore. They were now teaching others how to sell honestly. Evan was promoted to be the lead trainer. Charlie, the older worker, even helped rewrite the sales scripts from scratch. "It feels weird," Charlie said, laughing. "But I'm proud of where I work now." Keanu smiled. "It feels right." They watched as a young couple hugged a worker near the front desk. The woman was crying, not from anger, but from relief. "No one's ever treated us like this before," she whispered. A week later, Jake came to Reeve Automotive, hoping to cause trouble. He stormed in, angry, with 2 of his managers following him. Keanu was waiting for him. "You think this is over?" Jake growled. Keanu tilted his head. "No, it's just beginning." Jake's voice dropped. "You embarrassed me. You destroyed my business." Keanu stayed calm. "You did that yourself. You just never thought someone would shine a light on it." Jake clenched his fists, his jaw tightened, but he didn't do anything. He stormed out, and the empire he built on lies came crashing down. Later, Evan came into the office holding a letter. "You might want to see this," he said. It was from Gregory and Margaret Pierce. Inside the envelope was a picture of their son's silver Civic, fully restored and looking as good as new. There was also a note written on the back of the picture. Thank you for proving that not all businesses have lost their soul. Nathan would have been proud of you. Keanu sat quietly for a moment looking at the picture. Then he smiled. A year later, that same silver Civic still sat in the showroom looking brand new. A small plaque beside it read, "In memory of Nathan Pierce, firefighter. His courage saved lives. His story changed how we do business." People who came into the showroom didn't just look at the car. They stopped to reflect. It wasn't just about the car anymore. It was about what it stood for. Inside, things were different. Salespeople weren't just trying to make a sale. They were helping people. They were teaching the new workers not just how to sell, but how to care. One afternoon, a young woman came in with tears in her eyes. "Your dealership honored Nathan," she said. "He saved my sister." Keanu nodded, moved. "We owe him more than a plaque. He reminded us of who we are supposed to be." The dealership was busy with customers, but inside there was one quiet truth. Some Charlies, the smallest things, leave the biggest legacy. In a world where greed often goes unchecked, one quiet decision, made from the heart, reminded everyone of what true leadership looks like. Keanu didn't just fight a bad system. He showed that doing the right thing was more important than making money. He showed that kindness could spread, and that some Charlies changing just one story could inspire 100 more. If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.